Hey guys, Manscaped and the Testicular Cancer Society have partnered up to introduce the TCS.
Explosive expose published by the Sunday Times detailed 4 women's accounts of sexual and emotional abuse by Russell, which he has since denied in a new video on social media.
But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute.
And now Katy Perry's comments about her relationship with Russell are seeing the light of day again, 1 decade later. For context, Katy and Russell tied the knot in India on October 23, 2010. And just over a year later, the pair divorced after she received a breakup text from him on New Year's Eve in 2011, which was caught on camera for her Part of Me documentary.
Come on, honey, you got this.
In a 2013 interview with Vogue, Katy spoke out about her controlling ex-husband and their really hurtful marriage, saying, quote, "I felt a lot of In a 2013 interview with Vogue, Katy spoke out about her controlling ex-husband and their really hurtful marriage, saying, quote, "I felt a lot of responsibility for it ending, but then I found out the real truth, which I can't necessarily disclose because I keep it locked in my safe for a rainy day."
The bad that comes along with the good is a journey. And I learned so much from that journey.
Following the resurfacing of Katy's Vogue interview, many fans are speculating that the rumored truth may have something to do with the allegations emerging against Russell. As of Monday, Katy has not commented on any speculation and the allegations.
I just did whatever felt best.
President Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
I want to dive right into this, a lot to get to.
Good.
There are a number of things that make your campaign unprecedented. You are the first former president to run for re-election in more than 100 years. You are facing 4 indictments. You have an incredibly significant lead in the GOP primary polls. But I want to ask you this, Mr. President. Why do you want to be president again?
Well, it's a very simple answer, and I can give it very easily. It's called Make America Great Again. Our country is in serious trouble. I don't think we've ever been so low in terms of certainly opinion, world opinion, and country opinion. People are devastated. They look at what's happening with millions of people coming in, millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country, flooding our cities, flooding the countryside. I think the number is going to be 15 million people by the time you end this. By the end of this year, I think the real number is going to be 15 million people. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions, insane asylums. They say, sir, please don't use that term, but it's true. They're terrorists at a level. It was very interesting. On NBC, I saw a poll, and I saw some statistics, and it said in 2019, there were no terrorists. They caught no terrorists. There was nothing that they saw. There was no anything. And now, this year, it's a record number like they've never seen before. So we did a great job at the border. We did a great job with the military. We did a great job with inflation. We had essentially no inflation. We had a great economy. And we didn't have an Afghanistan disaster. We were getting out, but we were going to get out with dignity and pride, not the way they got out. That was a surrender and an embarrassment and horrible. We gave $85 billion worth of equipment to the Taliban. We had death, so much death and so much horrible destruction. And it was a terrible thing. I think it was the lowest point in the history of our country. Now, with all of that, we can change it and we can make America great again, and that's why I'm doing this.
Well, and you have talked about a lot. We are going to delve into a number of the issues you brought up. You talked about all the people coming across the border. Of course, a lot of families also coming across the border as well. I want to talk to you about that a little bit later on. But first, let's talk about the breaking news today. We learned just a short time ago that the president's son, Hunter Biden, was indicted by a federal grand jury on 3 gun charges. Given that, Mr. President, can you continue to say that there are 2 systems of justice?
Well, I think there's no question about it. He had a plea deal that was the deal of the century, the art of the deal. You could write a book on it, the art of the deal. And all of a sudden that was broken up by a judge who was able to, a brilliant judge actually, who was able to see through what was happening. And it's a sad situation. I mean, nobody should be happy about this. I'm not happy about it. Nobody is. It's a very sad thing. It's so bad for our country. But, you know, if you think about it, I've been under investigation from the day I came down the escalator, and a phony investigation, fake investigations, investigations that I beat every single time, still under investigations. But it's a very sad thing, and it's a slippery slope, and dangerous, very dangerous for our country.
But you talked about the plea deal, but now Hunter Biden's been indicted. He's facing very serious charges. So doesn't that undercut your entire argument that there are 2 systems of justice in this country?
It's one of 12 charges. There are 12 possible charges.
And he's
this
still
is
under
the only
investigation.
charge that doesn't affect his father.
Well, he's still under investigation.
Well, sure, maybe. I mean, let's see what happens. But this is the only charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden. This was the gun charge. But gun charges are very serious. You know, people have had gun charges and gone to jail for a lot of years. I pardoned some people who I thought it was just horrible what happened, but they were put in jail for many, many years, rappers and others. So, look, it's a bad thing, but it's one of 12. And it's the one charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden.
Well, of course, there's no evidence that the president has any link to his son's business dealings. Let me ask you, though,
I
don't
necessarily agree. He called in. You mean he called in all these meetings? He was calling in on the meetings. He was put on speakerphone and every single day. And
the witness
literally
testified.
many, many calls. And what about the fact that he got rid of the prosecutor for $1 billion?
Well, the witness who testified.
You don't get rid of this prosecutor. We're not giving you $1 billion to Ukraine. He said that. I mean, there are a lot of things here.
Mr. President, the witness who testified, though, said that he never heard any discussion of business when President Biden was put on the phone.
Wait a minute. You saw the prosecutor thing on television, because I saw it on your network. He said, you don't get rid of this prosecutor, I'm not giving $1 billion.
That was looked into as well, and as you know, there was never any wrongdoing.
If I ever said that, quid pro quo.
Let's move on to what a second Trump term would look like.
Add sparkle to any design with Glitter Stickers by Sticker Mule. Glitter stickers are a fun way to showcase your artwork, promote your brand, or bedazzle the ordinary. Each sticker is printed in full color on a glitter-like material that will make your artwork truly shine. To get started, select a size and quantity, upload your artwork, and check out. Within a few hours, we'll send you a proof showing how your glitter stickers will look. You can request changes to the proof for free until you're happy. With easy ordering, fast turnaround, and free shipping, Sticker Mule is the internet's favorite place to buy glitter stickers.
One of our goals is to make the transaction as easy as possible for our clients. DocuSign has been really at the forefront of that. We do a lot of big development properties. 1 out of 5 of our clients are first-time home buyers who we have to really shepherd through the process, and DocuSign has captured all of that. Smart capabilities on pre-placed fields, and then they're ready to be sent for signature. We've made it much easier for them. We plan on continuing to grow. And with DocuSign as our partner, it's really going to help us get there much faster.
When you launched your campaign in March, you told the crowd, quote, "I am your retribution." What does that mean? What does that look like?
I think retribution is talking in terms of I have to protect people. What they're doing to people is so horrible. They're putting people in jail for long periods of time. Firemen, policemen, accountants, even lawyers. They're in prisons for years now and don't even have trials in some cases. And if you look at Antifa and other groups, practically nothing happened to them. They burned down Portland. They burned down Minneapolis. They took over Seattle. I mean, they literally took over a big chunk of the city. People died and nothing happened to them. We have to protect all people.
But when you talk about retribution, are you talking about directing your attorney general to try to go after your political enemies?
When I talk about retribution, I'm talking about fairness. We have to treat people fairly. These people on January 6th, some of them never even went into the building, and they're being given sentences of, many years.
Are you going to pardon
and nothing
those
is
people who've been
happening?
convicted?
Well, I'm going to look at them, and I certainly might if I think it's appropriate. No, it's a very, very sad thing, and they're dividing the country so badly, and it's very dangerous.
Well, Mr. President, we're going to delve into that a little bit later on, but I want to stay on this idea of what you mean by retribution. Are you looking to appoint an attorney general who will prosecute the people you tell them to prosecute?
I'm looking to appoint an attorney general who's going to be tough on crime and fair. Very simple.
And go after your political enemies?
No, I would never do that. But Biden has done that. Look, Biden, these aren't indictments against me. These are Biden indictments. This isn't God coming down and very fairly said, "Joe, you spoke badly about an election." The election was rigged. There's no question about that. There's so much proof on it. Even if you go to the more modern day proof with the, they call it Twitter files, FBI and Twitter, or you take a look at the Amazon stuff or the Google stuff, or you take a look at 2000 Mules, you take a look at all of the ballot stuffing that's on tape, you take a look at the fact that the legislatures didn't approve a lot of the things that were done in the elections and they had to approve. And we could go on forever. We could go on forever. But no, I want somebody that's going to be strong, respected, tough, and fair.
Just to go back to a couple of the points you said, the ballot stuffing, that's something that's been debunked.
It hasn't been
As
debunked.
you know,
it's on camera.
But I do want to keep moving forward.
Yeah, but
and of course,
it's on camera. Hundreds and even thousands and thousands of people. You take a look. True the Vote. Take a look. It's on camera.
But Mr. President,
they have
you know,
thousands
Republican
of pictures.
officials
But
and
I know,
top
but
law
Kristen, you can't say it.
officials have
They have
told you that
thousands
that's
of pictures
debunked.
of people. I know you have to say that for your network, but you shouldn't say it. Because that's the problem.
But Mr.
The
President, that's
news
the
has
truth,
lost
and you've been
such
told that.
power.
Let's stay on track, though, Mr. President. Let's stay on track
but you're
with
saying
this
to
question.
me it hasn't. We have thousands of essentially motion pictures of people stuffing the ballot boxes.
But, Mr. President,
tens of thousands.
they're not stuffing the ballot boxes, and you've been told that by your top law enforcement officials. But let's stay on track because we have so much ground to cover.
You have
We
people that went
policy ground
and voted
to cover,
in one
Mr.
place,
President.
another place, another place. As many as I understand, 28 different places in one day with 7, 8, 9 ballots apiece. They can't do anymore because it would look too phony. These were professional people. They were stuffing the ballot boxes. It's there. I mean, it's there to see. A lot of people don't like looking at it.
60 different cases all across the country. You lost that, but let's stay on track.
We lost
have
because the
so
judges
many-
didn't want to hear them.
Mr. President,
But
we have
if
so
this
many
if
topics
this were
to cover.
ever before a court, we would win so easy. There is so much evidence that the election was rigged. And you may not even put the section on your show, and you'll have to decide what you want to do. But people know it was rigged. Look, the media,
Mr. President,
when I
there's
first
no
got
evidence
involved
of
in
that.
politics,
As you know, there's no evidence of that. We have so many different topics.
tremendous evidence.
I want to talk about what a
Listen,
potential...
let me ask you this.
Mr.
You agree
President-
there was Twitter files, right?
Mr. President...
You agree there were 51 intelligence agents that lied. You agree with
I'm
that?
not the one who's being interviewed. Let's
Well, no,
stay
but-
on track
I know,
because
but
I want to talk about
that's rigging the
policy,
election.
because that's what voters want to hear about, Mr. President. Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill
Go ahead.
right now.
Go
Speaker
ahead.
McCarthy announced that he was launching an impeachment inquiry this week into President Biden? Do you see this as a part of the retribution that you seek?
No, not at all. I think, look, you look at the terrible things that have been happening with respect to Biden. Look at everything. Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, who are fantastic people and very legitimate people. I watched Jamie Comer just a little while ago talking about a lot of different facets of what's going on. And he was the one that said, I guess there are 12 things where it looks like it's stone cold guilty. And the gun charge is only one of the 12. He said this is the only one that doesn't implicate Joe Biden.
So, but my question for you, did you talk to Speaker McCarthy about this House impeachment inquiry?
No, I don't talk to him.
Tell him that he should open a House
No,
impeachment
I don't
inquiry?
do that. I don't think he'd do that. I mean, he wouldn't do it based on me, no.
Did you talk to your Republican allies on Capitol Hill and say you should support this?
No, I don't have to talk. They're more proactive than I am. They think it's terrible. I will say this, they think I was treated very unfairly. I mean, when I was impeached for a perfect phone call, and now it turned out to be perfect, I hope you will admit that at least, because I was right, 100% right. But I was impeached for a perfect phone call. And how sad that is. And we had 196 to nothing vote for Republicans. Very unusual for the Republican Party. I was so proud of them. 196, the entire House, not one person dissented. And then other than Romney, who sort of gave me half a vote, but we had 100% in the Senate. People think I was treated very unfairly.
Well, the people who
and
voted
I know I was treated.
The people
very
who voted for that impeachment say that the phone call that you referenced was about a quid pro quo.
It was perfect.
But
my phone call was perfect. My phone call was saying, please investigate any crimes that you see. And by the way, I'm mandated to do that as the President of the United States. And it was really a call to congratulate him on winning the election. But
Mr. President, let's...
No, when you talk about quid pro quo, please don't talk about quid pro quo, because there was none in the call at all. Where there's
that
a
was
quid
the heart.
where there is a quid pro quo was when Biden said very strongly,
Dialpad has completely transformed how we support customers. Its built-in AI helps my agents transcribe calls, track customer sentiment, and even coaches in real time. So we can provide the best customer service at every step. Dialpad. Work beautifully.
Dragonair world.
We're not going to give them the $1 billion unless they get rid of the prosecutor. That's a quid pro quo.
Mr. President, let me take a step back here, because a lot of voters say what they want to talk about right now is your vision for the future.
Sure.
And I've been traveling to a lot of the early voting states, and they say that your focus on the past is a problem for them. What do you say to those voters?
I have no focus on the past, except that you have to learn from history. You have to learn from the past. We had an election that was very, very terrible. It was a terrible thing for our country. And you have to learn from that. You can't forget that and just go. Now, with all of the things that we said, I had the best economy maybe in history.
We're going to talk about it next.
Right.
So let's stay
I had the best economy in history, and I'm going to do it again. I had the best energy. We were energy independent, soon to be energy dominant. Now we're begging for energy. I mean, what they've done to this country, they're destroying our country.
We're going to talk about the economy in just a minute, but before we move on from Capitol Hill, do you think Republican hardliners should abandon their threat to shut down the government over their spending priorities now that there is this impeachment?
No, I think if they don't get a fair deal, we have to save our country. We have $35 trillion in debt. We have to save our country.
So you would shut down the government? You'd support that?
I'd shut down the government if they can't make an appropriate deal, absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about the economy. And I want to start by talking about this big standoff between the auto workers and the big three auto manufacturers. My question for you, Mr. President, whose side are you on in this?
I'm on the side of making our country great. The auto workers are not going to have any jobs when you come right down to it, because if you take a look at what they're doing with electric cars are going to be made in China. The auto workers are not going to have any. I'll tell you what. The auto workers are being sold down the river by their leadership, and their leadership should endorse Trump. The reason is you got to have choice. Like in school, I want school choice. I also want choice for cars. If somebody wants gasoline, if somebody wants all electric, they can do whatever they want. but they're destroying the consumer and they're destroying the auto workers. The auto workers will not have any jobs, Kristen, because all of these cars are going to be made in China. The electric cars automatically are going to be made in China.
So let's talk about UAW's leadership. The president, Sean Fain, has withheld his endorsement of President Biden, but this is what he had to say about you. Quote, another Donald Trump presidency would be a disaster. How would you win that endorsement?
Well, if that's the case, I probably won't win his. I don't know the gentleman, but I know his name very well. And I think he's not doing a good job in representing his union because he's not going to have a union in 3 years from now. Those jobs are all going to be gone because all of those electric cars are going to be made in China. That's what's happening, number one. Number two, the electric cars are much more expensive and they don't go far enough. So if somebody wants to take a little bit of a long, just like the trucks, if somebody wants to take a little bit of a long ride, let's go to Maine or let's go to Kentucky from New York. You can't do it. I mean, you have to stop all the time. They don't go far enough. They're very expensive. They have a lot of drawbacks. Now, with that being said, some people are going to want them. Some people are going to travel short distances. What they're doing with our trucking industry is a disaster because they want all electric trucks. And a truck with a large tank, large gasoline or diesel capacity can go up to 2,000 miles. An electric truck goes 300 miles. So what are these guys going to do? They're going to stop every 300 miles and recharge their truck and spend 3 hours?
Let's move on and talk about another big picture issue when it comes to the economy. The issue of interest rates, inflation, something that you've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve is obviously independent, but I wonder, Mr. President, if you are re-elected, would you direct your Federal Reserve chair to lower interest rates?
Well, you know that I put a lot of pressure on him. It was outside pressure because nobody knows whether or not you can really do that, but I did because I thought his interest rates were too high, and he ultimately dropped his interest rates, the same gentleman, as you know. But it was a lot of pressure. I mean, I was very active on that. Right now, interest rates are very high. They're too high. People can't buy homes. They can't do anything. I mean, they can't borrow money. The banks don't have the money. The banks aren't lending the money. The banks, by the way, Chase Manhattan Bank, Bank of America, they discriminate against conservatives. It's a disgrace, and they shouldn't be allowed to. And I'm going to do something about that. But you take a look at banks throughout the country, and I think because of the regulators, but you take a look at Bank of America and Chase, they discriminate against conservatives and Republicans.
What's the evidence for that, Mr. President?
Oh, we'll give you plenty of evidence.
Okay, all right. Well, let's stay on track with this question, though. So just to be very clear, if you were reelected, would you direct your Fed chair to lower interest rates?
Depends. It depends.
You
Depends where inflation is. But I would get inflation down because drill we must. We will be drilling for oil. We are going to become, again, energy independent. We are going to reduce our debt because we're also going to become energy dominant. You know, we were ready to go dominant within a matter of months. We would have been making so much money. We have more oil, I call it liquid gold, under our feet than any other country, Saudi Arabia, Russia. And there's no country with more, and it's sweet. It's the finest. We have the best. You know, we're taking it from Venezuela. You know what it is? Tar. It's the worst.
Mr. President, are you going to appoint a new Fed chair if you're reelected?
Well, I guess he would have 2 years left or something like that, so we'll see. But,
okay. All right.
You know the word jawboning? I did a lot of jawboning against him, and he ultimately lowered interest rates. We had low interest rates. We had the best housing market ever. We had people buying homes. Today, people can't buy homes.
Economists are looking at some of the figures right now. The fact that the unemployment rate is at 3.8%. And they say it looks like the U.S. may not dip into a recession. What do you make of that assessment?
Oh, I don't know. People are going to, they say that, and then you end up in a depression. They say you're going to do great. You end up bad. You say, and the opposite. Most of them don't know what they're doing. It's a touch. It's a feel. And I predicted a lot of markets. I predicted a lot of things, frankly. You know, they say Trump was right about everything. I think that the way it's going now, you're going to have to, things are not going right now very well for the consumer. Bacon is up 5 times. Food is up horribly, worse than energy. Energy is starting to go up at a level that we haven't seen in a long time, meaning a couple of years since he took over, because I had energy prices very low. I had gasoline very low. We have to get the energy down, which they will never do. And they kept it artificial because they took the strategic reserves, which I had a lot to do with filling up for the first time ever. They took these strategic reserves and he issued it to everybody so that he could keep the gas prices down. Now, strategic reserves are at the lowest level they've ever been at, and we need that for war.
And there are a lot of factors that have contributed to that.
Well, no, the big factor is the fact that he took that oil.
Let's talk about taxes.
He took that and he wanted to have low gas prices for an election. And now we have nothing left.
Mr. President, there are a lot of factors, including global factors, that went into that. Let's talk about taxes, though.
I don't know why people stick up for him so much when he makes bad decisions, like you. I don't know why, and I have a lot of respect for you, and you were very fair in the debate. But I don't know why you and other people say, oh, it's okay that he destroyed the strategic petroleum reserves. I mean, why do you do that? Or it's okay that he has open borders.
Mr.
Somebody
President,
was in your position, not quite as good, said this morning, oh, having open borders is a wonderful thing. I don't know why, and I think that's why the media has lost so much
Mr.
credibility.
President, we're just having a conversation. Let me talk to you about taxes and your differences with President Biden over taxes.
Sure.
He wants to raise corporate tax rates to 28%. It's reported you want to lower them to 15%. Is that true?
I'd like to lower them a little bit if we could, but what I want to do is we have to get some income coming in. You know, when I lowered taxes, we took in more revenue.
To 15%, Mr.
You know
President?
that when it depends on where we are at the time. You know, a lot happens in a year. But when I lowered taxes, I cut taxes tremendously.